is it is more going to be associated with some type of, dangerous thing or whatever. And that's where the biasness of the power systems around us, what it is that they are biased about, that's where this becomes so unfair, because not everyone be okay with the same bias. Some people might be completely okay with biases around, civilian violence or gun control. Others might be much more concerned about terrorism or immigration, right? So you've got this public that's already so, and I'm talking about just the U.S. If you look globally, we are so many different kinds of human. I mean, diversity's never been so fat. I love it. Glad to be here with all of you. Did we lose our new friend, Dr. No, yeah, Arthur. Did Arthur? Okay, well, hopefully we.
Hi, everybody. I don't know where that's coming. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You sound good.
And hi, Dan, Jordan. I've seen all you guys having an interesting. So my daughter, who's in tech, and I'm actually involved in. I was recruited to work for a gaming company that's creating new generation digital twins, right? We were talking about kind of the importance of the democratization of information, right? And how the world is definitely changing positively. But I think about how the grids go down from time to time, or when I think about Clubhouse, when you say something they don't like, sometimes we were talking a few minutes ago about how somebody might all of a sudden you stop hearing them, right? So, the importance of decentralizing information and power, I think it's just something that I'm thinking about when we're having this discussion about sharing information and being gatekeepers to do that. There's a crypto company called Helium. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but their idea was to create nodes that people can create their own networks in their own neighborhoods, and that includes poor villages in India. Can put these nodes together and basically use a small solar cell to power it, and can literally provide any type of electronic service, including information transfer. And I think that's becoming more important for us to have some sustainability and some way to protect our information systems. When he talked about I think he said 1984, he's talking about smart cities. I think, and the regulatory structure is always a problem when it comes to information. So I was just thinking about the importance of us, maintaining and keeping focused on having sustainable information networks. I think we need more of it. I don't think we have enough of it. I mean, we don't really have. Everybody relies on their cell phone now. When I was a kid, we used to have CB radio. You have to have two-way radios, which were kind of off the grid. It was kind of the first internet of sorts, where as long as you had an antenna and a power source, you could transmit and receive information and get together with people. And so I think, so radio communication, which has almost been completely dismantled, I think it needs to be maintained. And these are just my thoughts on practical matters. As we get into this next generation of thought and information sharing, the people in power, the people who made candles were not happy when the light bulb was invented. It pretty much goes for anything else, that the inefficiencies of markets are created by people. It's not because they're stupid. I do a lot of business consulting, and generally they're just trying to maintain their turf. So I think there's some major turf war coming when it comes to energy distribution and information. So anyway, that's just my share. It has nothing to do with the topic of the room, other than the fact that we're trying to raise consciousness, the psychedelics and the medicines and remedies that open our consciousness lead us to want to share information in a way that people who are in the machine do not even comprehend.
You were right on topic when you used the metaphor or the reality of light, because we've been talking a lot about Illumination Day and elements of light. And I was thinking of how perfect it is, because for most people's electricity now, when we have our electric lights, and often battery powered, whatever, often made by coal or by nuclear power or some, fairly intense giant systems that create the electricity, which then makes the light. And some of that is, again, fossil fuel based, which is kind of neat. It's ancient light coming back. But then I was thinking about how, say, a candle, a beeswax candle, say, or a whale light candle from back in the 1800s, that light that was coming from, say, beeswax, that's fairly fresh sunlight that was harvested by these insects in relationship to flowers and pollen and all that. And but it came not that long ago from the sun. And that this idea of being able to store energy as something and then turn it into a light that we then could illuminate, say, to read by. When people were in the 1800s, reading was becoming more popular, and one of the ways people lit their homes, there was beeswax that was common, but and of course olive oil and sheep's tallow, but whale oil, interestingly, apparently, according to Moby Dick, whale oil had this spectrum of light that was so sought after, and I think it was less smoky. And there's something about the idea that these giant sea mammals, and again, this is moving away from whether it's okay or not to harvest whales. Okay, don't do that. Not anymore. We harvested the shit out of them because apparently the light was awesome. Which is kind of an interesting thing to think about as we harvest this light from AIs or from our phones or global communications. As we harvest this light, whether it's from fossil fuels or nuclear, or maybe it's from solar power or sun or geothermal, who knows? Lots of ways to get energy now. It's a ton of it out there, and that would be a good thing. Hopefully, millions of people right now are having amazing breakthroughs using their new tools, AI machines or whatever, just their calculator maybe, and some, a napkin perhaps, and they're drawing out some machine that will help us simplify, make more efficient, and beautify our use of energy instead of it being this kind of difficult thing that's often just full-on class issue too. Think about how many people can barely make their electrical bill now, and no one can live without a cell phone, pretty much. Like, think about how many things you can't do unless you can pay for electricity. So there is a fairness there that we need to work on also, that hopefully, I like to think that if anything that will have come up out of, I don't want to call it AI necessarily, but computing abilities and big systems that are looking at giant systems more easily, because the human primate brain can't wrap our mind our way around it. I like to think that some kind of class structure, obvious realness, it's different than, say, communism or something Marx would have come up with, because he didn't have supercomputers. But the idea that we could come up with some type of better class structure, some better kind of tax system, at least in a single country, where there was a little more equity, where people could more easily get the things that they need. And I like to think that's going to be the first thing that we see coming down the pipeline, and not be anything exclusive, but the opposite of that, that there's some kind of new sort of almost perfect form of like giving and sharing and getting that could come from these new systems. We could see who really does need things the most and who has the most to give. That's what's kind of obvious. Billionaires, sorry, y'all gonna have to give that shit up. There's no way they're gonna get away. I mean, not getting caught on the island, that's bad. That's embarrassing. That's terrible. They need to die and be very humiliated as those people that went to that island. Not okay, right? But those people in the same group often that are that wealthy, and sure, even in some cases in the millionaire department, but I like to think that people could use millions of dollars and still kind of do something cool with it. But billions of dollars, it's just not possible, man. Those people need to give it back somehow. There's enough for all the need, not for all the greed. And for all the weed. I mean, weed, seriously, just talk to where's the weed? Please, it's not just about being Canadian. THC is easy enough to produce, and people don't need to be that high all the time. There's very easily could be a weed fund where anyone on the planet could get high anytime, and it would be fine. It would be a very small amount of the public's pocket. And again, I'm not saying keep people stoned all the time, right? If anything, you might have to do a blood test. If you wanted free weed, you might need to go in and be kind of prove it that you weren't just I'm not going to put a word on it. Because again, I don't want to be a hater. If some people need a gram of pure THC a day, I guess that's okay. I mean, I guess it's better than opiates. as far as the safety profile goes. I do think, going back, Wendy's not here, but something I didn't share, the endocannabinoid system to me is just so important that we understand it by, in a way, not understanding it, by being not high on cannabis and knowing ourselves pretty well, but then getting to dip out of ourselves into something that affects us as much as it does as the endocannabinoid system. The fact that we cannot be high at all and use endocannabinoid, artificial endocannabinoid stimulants, cannabis being the primary in its different forms, the fact we can do that is such an amazing diagnostic tool, and it's so safe because cannabis is fairly safe, minus the psychosis, which is, those are the people that don't get high more often, and myself, when I'm the glutton for punishment.
I don't know if you're old enough to remember the movie Sleeper with Woody Allen, but it's basically another one of those movies where he's in basically suspended animation for 200 years, and when he comes out, they go, who knew that chocolate and cigarettes and coffee were good for you? Well, we found out now that the nicotine system actually is a major protective, not the way it's been used, but it's a major protective system in the body that smokers actually didn't get COVID because the nicotine receptors were engaged, and it's very interesting. And obviously a lot of these systems like cannabis and nicotine are suppressed because until they see a highway in the pharmaceutical world, they're not really widely accessed. But obviously anything natural, there are substances in nature, you can't really extract them. What they are energetic, they're not even physical substances. So how do you can't really you can synthesize things that are, it's almost like the generic version of an apple. I'm going to create an apple in a lab, trust me, it's not going to taste like anything that grows on a tree.
Right, and every time you taste it, it might taste different anyway, right? Like a human is very hard to study.
Nature, the magic of nature, that it creates things like, I think of all the like all the radiation protectant things that are in Japan.
Dr. Mitch, you are breaking up pretty bad.
That are in Japan, that after the nuclear bombs were dropped, there are all these anti-cancer foods, that nature's providing. One of the problems with technology is it takes us away from that. I call it the mech. The mech is basically the technological equivalence that is not capable of empathy, right? It's designed really to remove you from nature, and striking the balance is really, really important. We're talking about candles and cannabis. Who's gonna, if the grid goes down tomorrow, there's a blip, sunspot, right? And basically our electric systems are fried, for the next 30 years. People have to actually start talking to each other and making candles and, growing food. Wow, what a concept. Will survive, right? Like we're not, I think people in our circles will have no aversion to growing herbs and fruits and vegetables and, living off the grid if necessary, and experiencing, getting back to nature, which is, I think we're experiencing a whole different set of medical conditions now that we don't even understand the extent of it because of the technology that's being infused into society. I'm not even sure that we really understand. We have enough long-term studies. We don't, because it's advancing at such a rate that we don't really know yet. But the advances in healthcare are also advancing at a similar rate. It's a great time to be alive. This is the second golden age of science. People that don't recognize that are asleep at the wheel. And, you know, one of the first maxims in medicine is anything that can do a lot of good can do a lot of harm. And, you know, we just need to make sure that the empaths are in power, not the narcissists or the psychopaths. And so we need to identify people that don't have the capacity for empathy at some point. You know, you can't just bring the murderer to the birthday party. And I don't really know that we're doing.
AI music, you want to say hi? Billy Sunshine, you want to come up?
Yeah, hey, good afternoon. I've really enjoyed your room. I was in a nice space with Jordan yesterday with Dr. Sharon, who, you know, really I thought in this room she'd be perfect because her psychology paired with psychedelic is you know, that's the way. So to me, I'm big into neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis, words, and I put a link in the chat to a primary Zen, a philosophical document called The Faith Mind. And this goes very well, I think, with psychedelic. It can help people achieve a certain type of enlightenment, understanding, wisdom, knowledge, experience, but you got to read it and you have to run the words through your brain. And so what's interesting is we're all just brains talking to each other on a conference call. But if you can Pavlovian or suggestion your brain, you can program it with words. And if you can get the understanding or the big picture idea from the concepts in these books or in these sacred text documents, that website Sacred Texts is amazing. But you have to run the script through your brain. A lot of people like to just read the menu in Clown House, but they never eat the dinner. And so, you know, to me, if you were to create rooms where I call it the book club, we all read to each other for 10 minutes and exchange scripts and do information exchange that way by reading sacred text, that could be a fun experiment and potentially, you know, a glorious moment for people. Whether or not it materially changes your life would remain to be seen. But if you think there's something called manifestation, it's my opinion that working with these sacred text documents can help you achieve what you want quicker because it deals with intelligence. And God, if anything, not only is God energy, but God is supreme intelligence. And I think these sacred text documents are individuals essentially creating neurolinguistic programs for us in the now to reread, to rerun, to hopefully save ourselves and humanity or the world, because the threat of nuclear devastation is real. You know, climate and ecology collapse is real. Intelligence collapse is real. We all know about the dark ages. Supposedly they were so dark, but maybe they weren't so bad, you know, in terms of intelligence. But anyways, I'm happy to be here with you all. I've enjoyed it. And Daniel, I love your special presence. And Dr. Mitch, everybody here is super special and in the super special club.
Chair, thank you. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, like just constantly trying to expand consciousness while society does everything it can to contract it, you know. So getting us addicted to everything and buying everything. So, like, I mean, is that why we're here? You know, to eat, make more shit? You know, probably not. You know, like how much is enough? It was interesting when I don't remember who it was said that the billionaires at some point are going to have to give up their stuff. They're creating the financial markets are creating all of that equity, let's call it, like, you know, potential capital for the next technological revolution, which is like them or hate them. They're called smart cities, but I don't know if it's more accurate to call just advanced technological oases. And they had to create liquidity to do it. They couldn't do it with the amount of capital that was available in the markets 10 years ago. So even though there's supposedly these trillions and trillions of dollars somewhere that nobody's seeing, right? I mean, in America, 80% of the population is 3 paychecks away from homelessness. And I don't know when we became a poor nation that we don't have any money to take people off the street, give them medicine. I'm kind of a little befuddled that such a wealthy nation doesn't.
Well, it started with Ronald Reagan, and that was the whole agenda, and it's been happening ever since. And then look at what happened to the tax rates. Look at, it's pretty obvious why. It's because we've literally made it. Yeah, I mean.
Alan Watts was giving a lecture.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
1 second.
Go ahead.
Let me wrap real quick. The difference between America and other countries is that we're shareholders here. Every citizen is a shareholder in everything that this not government, but everything this country owns. We're shareholders, and we're supposed to be getting. I'm not getting my dividend check. I'm paying this government to manage my assets, and other nations are not. So, yeah, go ahead. That's all I wanted to say.
I was going to say that Alan Watts, later in his life, near the end, was giving a lecture at a university outdoors, talking about how the Great Depression was basically us saying we don't have any more nails to build houses, meaning that we refuse to continue the fiat printing. So if we're $39 trillion in debt, funded debt, and $100 trillion in unfunded debt liabilities, theoretically, we can just keep printing and expand the money supply infinitely, in the same way that Zimbabwe, Venezuela have rampant inflation, because it's really about the survival of our perimeter, our border as a collective society, supposedly by our social security numbers. So I'm just saying that it's very true what FDR said, but the only thing you have to fear is fear itself, because this is a civilizational game or a global community game that we are all participating in. And the other shareholders are China, the Federal Reserve, UK, Germany, Italy. Everybody owns a piece of our dollar system. So the only thing we can fuck up is losing it, meaning that somehow it gets shut down, as if you were running some business that gets shut down by some government. So it's a Ponzi scheme, but everybody's operating on the same fundamental Ponzi scheme principles, because you can go to us.collect.org and look at the total debt per country. And so it's all a relative system. We're the biggest Ponzi operator. But the rest of the world, half of the world isn't even living in cities. They're living in dilapidated towns. But I don't know what their health outcomes are like, because Africa didn't take the jab, and they are repopulating at the highest rate on the planet. The whole planet will become black, which, who cares how the light reflects your skin? They couldn't penetrate into Africa with the jabs. So we are at the same time our own worst enemy with our health, but supposedly we are this advanced technological, medical, industrial complex. But I don't see it personally. I didn't see the COVID-19 vaccine jab as being a vitamin boost to anybody's immune system. Does anybody here at this point, with all the information that has come out on X on the adverse effects of the injections, think that it's still a good idea to continue even getting a COVID-19 vaccine? I mean, but they're still pushing it. So I think we live in clown world, and if you're intelligent, it's you versus clown world, because it's an index of clownage. And the Nancy Pelosi's and the Maxine Waters and the AOCs, who give these big emotional hypnosis content on Instagram all day long. This is all they're doing, is creating mind control and time control, and they're getting paid handsomely to do it. But America will endure and continue because it is this global community that is really well defined and established. It is more than ever a global network. And, Heronstone on this app thinks that the planet Earth is alive and the internet is the, Earth's global. So there's this bigger consciousness called the ear or the Earth. And if we can hear the truth, I don't know. I don't think we can save the world or save America. It's really about our, 6,000 hours of existence and how you game theory and optimize your consciousness and your physical well-being and your environmental well-being. And that it's this short, brief game that we all get to play. It's like a video game.
Shall I? Or I thought you were. Shall I? Or either. Or, well, okay. Well, I hope Aaron is correct. I've actually had many different forms of realizations over the decades that have suggested that the Earth is alive, and certainly in some ways, and even rocks, whatever, planets. There are a lot of gravity here, a lot of mass, a lot of potential of something. The newest human noosphere, or just life itself, creating its own ecosphere of some kind of intelligent power. I hope those things are true, because if they are, this thing you talk about, America, is just simple. One United States, you said, is just one very small place, and a very greedy place, and a place that in its magnificent evilness may be fully grounded, because there's a much larger world out there that needs more than the U.S. has ever had access to. Than the U.S. has ever given away. So if this larger intelligent force, whether it be a computer or the planet itself, decides to snag a little bit of wealth from the America, whatever that is, the United States, hopefully the economy will not hurt the poor people in the United States, because it certainly has people just as poor in Africa. But I don't want to really think about what you meant involving COVID and Africa and everything, but I do want to tell you, statistically, when there is great bad things happen to places, the population gets bigger. When you look at the famines that have been studied, most of them in the last 100 years, there was usually a population explosion afterwards. So regardless of how far the medical world, or whatever we want to call it, a world that probably does need to test. I don't know if vaccines is the right word, but we do need to probably look at public health as something that's more global concern. And the fact that Americans got this thing you call the jab sooner than people in Africa did, and how it may have had this effect on Africa, having a population explosion, well, that's not really true, because worldwide there's fewer people breeding all the time, and probably more than anything else, it's because the economy has now become more in the hands of women than any time else in the past patriarchal years. And there's something about women having a little more economic control seems to have an effect on the speed at which a population reproduces. Kind of makes sense, actually, if you think about it. And anyway, so I don't know, it's a lot there. Thanks for bringing up some of this edgy stuff. And these rooms do, of course, because COVID still is real. I don't mean the disease necessarily, but the discussions around it are alive and well. It mean many different things, many rabbit holes there, many very, very, very.
Yeah, I don't mean to be edgy.
It's okay. No. It just comes up, and it can mean many things. And there's as many views in the room right now on many different elements of what's happening on the planet as there are, and we can't talk about it. But you kind of broached it very briefly, which was, thank you. God, that was kind, actually.
Hi, this is Daniel. There was an area of Africa, south near I forget the country, where they went and evaluated why people weren't getting COVID and were not getting HIV. And it turns out that they use, I think it was elephant dung for making fires. And they don't use gloves, they handle it with their hands, and that's how they lived. And they believe that the bacteria and the viruses and whatever's in the dung that they use with their hands and don't sanitize them were actually what prevented HIV and the spike protein illness. And they had a lot of science. It was a scientific presentation. So modernization is part of our problem here. So I just wanted to tell you guys about some science around this.
The other speaker who left, who was getting very emotional, but he was grounding himself in breathing. Yesterday, Dr. Sharon, Jordan, and I, we were, I was asking about breathing and silence, the space of silence. And it's my theory or opinion that the GOD most likely resides in what we can induce as a silent space, meaning that I'm being very political in what I'm saying, but really my interest is enlightenment. And I know Dr. Jordan owns enlightenment.com, but Alan Watts, the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu, so many sacred texts, what they're really doing is they're doing two things. One is they're creating a deep state of relaxation, but they're using wisdom, logic, and philosophy to do it. And so I'm using AI music or Suno app to take all this poetry and sacred text documents and put it into AI music. And it's so incredible listening to really good AI music with this philosophy and poetry. And to me, it's an amazing discovery because it takes work to read these documents. But if you just use AI to do it and listen to it in music form, it's like pure joy and enlightenment. So if you guys haven't tried Suno, the AI music creator, take your favorite poetry and plug it in there with your favorite music genre like jazz, and you will be amazed at what you're listening to. We all use our cell phones all day long, but this to me is one of the coolest ways to use your cell phone.
Two quick things. Oh, Patrick, you want to talk? Oh, okay. I just want to go back to validating what you said about reading sacred texts. I think we got off topic, and I think, we need to reprogram people as much as possible. That's number one. Number two is I'm actually a frontline doctor. I'm part of FLCCC, and Daniel's a physician as well. And so we're intimately, knowledgeable about the horrors of, the giving healthy people questionable medicine that has very harmful effects. That might even include technology in it. Like, we don't even know because people were given so many different formulations. Like certain lot numbers have been tracked that caused more harm and deaths than others. It's bizarre. It's some form of mass human experimentation that I believe is a continuation of, some of the World War II experiments that were done on prisoners. I'll say it that way to be polite. But it's we haven't really seen yet. I mean, there's a lot of talk about how it affects fertility and causes miscarriages, etc. I don't know that we've seen the full effect of that yet. Still pretty recent. Should people be taking these? I would say 1,000% no, unless you want to be the guinea pig for questionable medicine with questionable byproducts in it, including DNA fragmentation, lipid nanoparticle emulsion, and about 1,000 other things. They've got the simian SV40 in there, simian virus, metals. It's ghastly. So no, there's nobody that should allow anyone in their family to be subjected to it. So that's the part two.
I know the vaccine is a very sensitive topic. I want to talk about it, but going back to the Suno AI app, if I can just say one more thing, it is an educational tool that you can use to neurolinguistically program yourself or others in a commercial way. But if students were to even take difficult topic material, or if you're studying for, say, the LSAT, and there's all these complex terms, what the Suno AI app will allow you to do is to expand your LLM, or basically your vocabulary, because if you don't know the word, you can't have the thought. So it is an very interesting way. I would highly suggest people download it and experiment with it, and use poetry, use philosophy, and listen to what you like or know, or the other documents you've used in the past, for meditational purposes or therapeutic or psychological purposes.
Yeah, I've only played with Suno a little bit, but I really was impressed by what it did. And I imagine that, if we acknowledge that music is about the most powerful transformational tool there is, people would be able to, of course, there'll be people selling the service as well, but people will be able to create for themselves the type of, ambient music and focused music that will be the most healing and the most elevating of human potential. Although none of that will ever catch Claire Torrey's solo in The Great Gig in the Sky by Pink Floyd.
What's interesting is it literally makes you like a conductor, because if you were to present to an audience your AI music, anybody could do it, but each piece that comes out is unique and unique to you because you created it. You fed the lyrics and you chose the category. But the quality of it, like if you do a jazz duet with a choir, or an opera with a symphony and a choir, there's so many variables you can put in that it creates this incredible output, which is mind-blowing. Because I mean, you just have to experiment with it and then appreciate how complicated and intelligent it must be for these software developers to create code, and how they source it. It's just so mind-boggling how it can put out such complex output, because there's so many variables. Anyways, I'm just saying it's mind-blowing.
It's using your input. What is it called? I can't find it. It's SUNO.
Yeah,
it doesn't. There's all these other music. There's all these different AI music generators.
Look at my profile. If you copy that link and then you put it in your browser,
Super thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. As a person I've not been much of a musician throughout my life, but in the last year, I stopped listening to music and I started to work with modular synthesis instead. And it's neat because although it is an AI based, so I'm not really I'm not necessarily connecting with that, although I'll look into it because that sounds interesting. But making noise, I would call it, more now for the first time ever in my life, but using electricity, which I do understand, and understanding how electricity can make noise, and then doing stuff with that, and working into what's it called, sequencing and beat making and things like that. To me, that type of form in a way of AI, because I'm using machines to do what I cannot, because I'm not an orchestra, I don't play guitar, whatever. And that now that I can take machines and make sounds with them, and then most of the time it sounds really kind of bad to me. But when I dial it away from what sounds bad, this is sound I'm making. When I dial it towards what I would say get happy, where it sounds better to me. And it's really neat because it does kind of what you described. The AI music is able to take this sort of synthesis of things that you like, or bring all these different ideas that you're able to feed it, which to me does not sound like complicated coding actually. But then that brings something to you that actually really works, and that you identify it as those things. That's really cool. And what's funny, because I'm not doing this with frequency controlled amplification, oscillators, filters, and things like that. I've actually been holding off of beats and sequencing because those are too seductive to me. Like a good beat's too easy, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to like that no matter what, because I'm not that particular. So I'm waiting to work on beats, and that way I'm mostly working with what I would call noise and dialing in what I would call therapeutical noises for my current needs. And so I'm kind of working on my own sort of version of, I guess, sound therapy, which is very personal because I'm just working on myself typically. Actually, if other people are around, I feel kind of self-conscious about it.
Have you heard of a center?
That's right.
Patrick, have you heard of a Centerpoint Research? It's some guy who was associated with Alan Watts, and it was very expensive. The website is still up, but it's some kind of frequency that he markets as being, like the ultimate.
I know that guy.
He's passed on, yeah.
Yeah, he came actually. He flew in his own plane to San Jose Airport and came to my house so I could interview him for Lightment.com. And his thing was called HoloSync. And, sure enough, if you listened to the different levels of it, you would go into an altered state. And I knew one guy who basically threw away his whole life and was only about these courses. And then, his wife, he was like, he was freaking out and doing bad things, and his wife was really trying to get him to see it. And he said, if you would only listen to the courses, then you would understand too. Like it got to that level, and he destroyed his life on HoloSync. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy. I can see his face.
I think he just said the name kind of that someone else mentioned, but then HoloSync, dude, I found that in someone else's collection over 2 decades ago. It was this multi-CD back in the days of CDs, and I copied them onto my computer's hard drive, and that became some of my most basic go-to music that I used, because it's not music, it's just like those different things. And so I never followed through on what it was. And then AI, and then what's it called? Apple iTunes ruined my collection, so I don't even know if I can access it anymore. But Holosync, that's what it was called. Thank you, Jordan. That had a huge impact on me. And then back to its actual creator. Oh, that's really interesting.
His name is Bill Harris. Yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah, he was on my very piece of property once. But before them, there was the fantastic stuff along those very similar put out by Robert Monroe. And if you ever really listen to Robert Monroe's stuff, that would take you way out there. He was wasn't he in like the Edgar Cayce kind of community, and they invented this thing? But he was the first one.
Yeah, I love Bob Monroe's thing. I had invested in it and a bunch of his things years and years and years ago. And there's Tom Kenyon and other people, super cool stuff. So yeah, this is him. I think was the name of his company, and yeah, it's legit. And I followed it up lately.
Gail and I did a weekend workshop in a condo in Mountain View with Tom Kenyon. It was great. We love that guy.
Yeah, I love his thing, the Ka sound, and a bunch of these other things. He channels the Hawthorns. But Bob Monroe's super cool. Was a whole bunch of them. You're to the Wayback Machine, and
my question remains: how much of their ability to enlighten and propitiate and to enhance the people they work with, all of these guys, how much of it is really about the specific technique or technology, and how much of it was about their own personal charisma, their personal power? We're going back in this conversation to the field of coherent light within them that they know how to access and work with. And so I'm going to put that question out there and then say hi to Steph. Hi, Steph.
Hi, I just love this conversation. I don't know where I don't want to jump in with some repeated facts, but I'm curious too. I do know that there's a lot of research in Michigan about psychedelics, especially with treatment with the veterans and stuff like that. There's a lot of research, but I just want to know where the context of the conversation is, and I'm loving it.
Maybe Patrick could do a high-level review of the whole conversation. It's been very far-ranging, including a guy who came on in kind of a breakthrough state. I mean, we've been since 8, so it's been all over the place. But maybe Patrick could summarize it.
I mean, I think you did a pretty good job. We went all over the place, and we haven't gone so deep that it's lost too many people, it seems like. I mean, I would say at this point, someone could probably bring up one of the previous topics, and we could probably give that a synopsis, because I feel like it's been a pretty good listening room also, where there's been like
you don't have to.
Oh no, I was just trying to meta-analyze the room like Jordan asked. As far as your request goes, I don't know. What are you into? Any thoughts on today? Anything particularly sticking out this week that's it might fit into one of the subjects pretty easily?
Nothing like talking about.
It's all right. Jordan called you out.
I'm taking a break. I'm mopping my floors, but I was also putting a coat on them. So I was like, okay, I go to work in about an hour. I was like, I'll go to Clubhouse while I wait for this to dry. So that's all.
I was going to bring up a document. I was talking about sacred text documents earlier, and I know I've talked to Dr. Jordan on this app for many years. And I'm interested in Aleister Crowley and Thelema and OTO and basically thematic texts. And to me that's very interesting is The Rights of Man, if anybody knows that one, but I'll put the link in the chat. But I think it's really interesting in relation to today's political event. Also, the Book of the Law, it's called the Naples Commentary, where he talks about the paradox of the Comte de Phoenix, which is the absolute liberty of the individual shouldn't be, superseded by the actions of the state. So, but everything.
Do you want to give us 2 or 3 minutes of a Crowley transmission? You want to recite a little something?
Yeah, I can do the aha meditation, which it's very interesting. Relaxation document. To me, all these Talmudic texts are basically relaxation meditation documents. Anything really is a meditation document. So, but that's why Suno is so interesting. Other things I put in Suno were the Fed papers, which is incredible political theory, and then the Tao Te Ching, and then that Shin Shin Ming, the faith mind. But the Dhammapada by the Buddha, the sayings of the Buddha with music is unbelievable. That to me, this is why Suno is so remarkable.
Sorry, I totally understand what it is, and I can see why some of the things you suggest would work so well in it. And again, I still don't suggest that I still don't believe it's complicated coding. It just simply shows the richness of the material that it has access to. You throw the Tao Te Ching into something, or some really amazing analysis of the Buddha. Throw what's in the Alan Watts? No, not isn't Alan Watts. It's not. Who's the other person from back then? A little later, did one of their whole books. Jack Kerouac, maybe whole book on the Buddha. Jordan, you probably read it. Anyway, taking some of those texts, or something like On the Road by Jack Kerouac, say, which is, say, not spiritual necessarily, but like a period piece, right? And so that was a book I read a long time ago, and I can see now throwing it into this AI tool that allows it then to, and say I listen to mostly electronic music, so a lot of the sort of artificial aspects of music, to me, they don't bother me because I've been doing that since I was a kid. And so I'm very comfortable with sort of synthetic music. And so the idea that I could take like some of my favorite techno, whatever, ambient, synthwave stuff, whatever, take that kind of thing, throw it in with like Tao Te Ching, which I've read hundreds of times and I don't like to read. Luckily, that's short. And I can throw those together and then get like, some beats with it or whatever, or no beats, just like some nice, Scandinavian negative space ambient, and get to like explore the ambient space of the Tao through Tao Te Ching, but then even be able to take different translations of the Tao Te Ching. I'm sure people are doing that already. Taking something fairly simple, because if you go to a really long document, I think the AI gets really lost in it. You can keep it under, like, say, 500 words, under a few thousand words, and then one of my biggest breakthroughs just in the last literally few months has been re-querying, even instead of staying on the same thread. So I've been reanalyzing my query and then rebuilding the answer. And I can see working with something as simple as developing a song around the way I want it to make me feel, how I could take, like, the lyrics, say in this case, the example, Tao Te Ching, and then explore the difference between like American pop and synth pop. I'm looking at its list right now. Thank you, Sumo. It had been suggested once before, but I was like, oh my god, not another app. But this does look interesting. It just got fit into my current abstinence from normal music.
It's basically you can take any book you want and just turn it into a Broadway musical. Like, how incredible is that?
Should I just go ahead and throw in my unpublished book on psychedelics and turn it into a Broadway? That's what I was hoping for anyway. I have a whole document just designed on what kind of musical it would be and how it would work.
So, yeah, you should turn your books into musicals.
It's so great to be creative.
I mean, imagine taking.
Are we creating? Are we just being created with? Are we just like this bloody paintbrush that's getting slung around by this robot god? I do not think so. I still think we have some control, and it's the lazy readers, which I am, and those who just want simple answers, which don't exist, are the people who are losing. And those of us that are carefully, sensitively looking at this like a new tool. Like, I tell you what, when I get a new shovel, I know to use a shovel. But the seal can be a little different. I got to think about the way I put it in the dirt, and it's real rocky where I live. So I got to think about that blade. Was it a $2 shovel? I might not care as much, but as a shovel user, I tend to use the shovels, and I'm a little careful thinking about where the rocks are. But I hit them all the time. Anyway, it's probably off track, but whatever.
I mean, what would be cool also is to take the transcript of this room. So I have an AI wearable. It's not on right now, but it's called Amazon Computer B, and it's a transcript. It's audio to text. So like I could take the transcript of this room and feed it into Suno, like the coolest parts of the room, and say, okay, this was the after party. Now you get to hear the musical. I don't know. It's just amazing.
Do it. It's on replays. Here, since you're already using the machine, take the replays from this. Do the thing, and then if you don't want to be attached to it, you can just send the raw stuff to me, and I'll like throw it out on another unguided room or something just to see what happens.
So
That's a great idea. I mean, what you said is a great idea. What I said is like maybe unnecessary yet, but that's what Heron does in a way. But he's actually live guiding the thing, right? Since Heron came up before.
Aaron's always stoned. So
What? Don't tell me that. No, I'm kidding.
oh yeah, Aaron's stoned. He's always stoned.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
So the room is at about 3 hours and 20 minutes, I think. I'm going to split in 10 minutes. You guys can obviously keep going without me, but we could also kind of say our goodbyes and wrap it up and have a ritual ending if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So
I beg you to end the room because I just cannot leave. This is too fun and funny and yummy. And
Patrick, you better have a better begging voice than that. Try again.
No. I was going to threaten that I was actually going to leave because I've got that much fortitude and I've got other things to do. And I thought I could maybe multitask, but it just doesn't quite work because people have been so interesting today. Because when I eat, yum.
Anybody have any final goodbyes they'd like to say before we close it down then?
Yeah, just gratitude. Thanks, guys, for having me out earlier. We're back. Somehow I caused the short. Couldn't get back on my iPad for like 30 minutes. Too much energy.
The universe was not ready for you to say what you were saying. You already like, if this is recorded, I can't say it. So I think it's just got to come back next week.
Arthur, what I liked was when you did the breath work and consciously brought your voice down half an octave to move into another self so you could be more grounded and could continue talking with us. It was a really beautiful demonstration of moving from one self to another in real time.
Oh, appreciate that. That's what I'm working on. That's what I'm designing. That's the future. This ability will be known and widely used with people who are aware, and they'll be able to navigate the energy spaces and know where they are at. And know it, intuit, feel like you just know because you're no longer tricked by your own energy incompatibilities. Anyway, all I want to say is if anybody is interested in receiving the master, what is it called? Master architecture, the thing that I designed, that you can read it or you could just ask your AI, or both, read it and ask your AI what you think of it, and then we can start from there. Yeah. It's all free. There's nothing that you pay. You actually receive. So it goes that way. It's the other way. It's not charge to play. It's pay. It's play and get paid, or get paid first, then you play. Yeah, you get the money first. That's how this works. It's different. Yeah, this is future stuff. Appreciate you guys. Take care.
Thank you, Arthur. You brought a lot of lively, good content to the room. We appreciate you here and being willing to, authentically be with us and going through that stuff and talking about what you were talking about. So I appreciate all of that. So, thanks everybody for being here. This room is almost 3.5 hours long. I'm gonna wrap it up now because Patrick was begging me. So here we go. Unless Daniel, you want to say a final goodbye.
Oh, do you want me to read Crowley's aha real quick?
I love it. Let's bounce.
Yeah. No, we're gonna pass on the Crowley now. I'm gonna just say this little thing and then we're gonna out. So may this act and all acts be dedicated unto the complete liberation and supreme enlightenment of all beings everywhere, pervading space and time. May the benefits of practice, ours and others, come to fruition ultimately and immediately, and we remain in the state of presence. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. We'll see you after or at the end of next week's room. Bye-bye.
Om.
There's only high waters to the kingdom hall.
When she stuck that shit in my face, I was like, Grandma, that ain't God, that's Zeus and Hercules. Boy, oh boy. Man, oh man. It's like a programming scam. My brother, welcome to the stage. What you got to say?
I don't know. After he kicked you out of the room, he basically went on to say how like you're a troll, but you're not good at trolling, and I'm like, it's like this guy's a big troll.
Going wild. But I have been going wild. Yeah, he's my new target, bro.
They liked you that day, whatever that was, though. They all, until that guy came, even then, like, you asked him to kick you, so he kicked you. But I think they really warmed up to you, actually, because you actually were talking about.
Yeah, but that's part of my strategy, is that I need to infiltrate their community.
Yeah.
And then every time he comes in, he's gonna kick me because I'm gonna attack him. But then at some point, they're gonna go tell him like, "Bro, this guy is cool and he contributes and all of that." So you need to infiltrate their group, bro, and then you need George Bush, bro. You need to divide and conquer. I've been doing it to every community on this app, but now I need the Bitcoin community, bro. That's the only community I didn't trade. And after I'm done with that, then I can leave the app in peace, bro. I did my job.
Dude, my foot is fucking. Dude, my foot looks disgusting, bro. It's like black.
Like, look at you. What happened? You fell off the bike, or you hit something, or what happened?
No, I got someone like ran through an intersection.
A car?
Bro. A truck.
Holy shit! Like you had the light, and they just barreled through a red light.
So there were greens on both sides, but the truck was turning in, like making a left. It's at a pretty big intersection, and so they have like the flashing green light. And there was a car that was, I don't know, like maybe like 30 yards ahead of me, 40 yards ahead of me, and this truck acted like, as it said, like they just didn't see me. Like as soon as the car in front of me passed through it was about to be, they like just pulled out to turn into the plaza. It was like she just didn't see me, and the worst part
was,
a
truck was driven by a woman. Like how big a truck?
I know, right? It was F-250.
Oh, that, yeah. Oh, I thought you meant like a tractor trailer.
No. It just wasn't a car.
It was a pickup. Oh, F-250s are big.
Yeah.
Where'd you hit it? Like on the? Did you go over the hood, or are you hitting the side?
The back, and I went up and over. I don't really remember.
So did the police write her up, or what happened?
Lou went flying, basically.
Yeah, I went flying. Yeah, no, there was They took me to like the trauma unit and everything. But the cops were fucking.